Welcome to East Tennessee Pinball. Working on this Gottlieb totem. Had the pop bumpers taken apart. I just put this back together. I basically take this whole mechanism apart, throw it in the ultrasonic, clean it up so it's nice and clean. Getting ready to put it back together, and I realized that that switch, which is the scoring switch, is gone. It's just both of them broken off. Same with this other one. I've already taken it apart. I've got it. Here's the spoon switch. The bottom half of it would be hanging off like that is on that one. I've taken it off. I'm put it on the bench. I'm gonna build a new switch for that one. I've got it. So we'll move over the bench and I'll show you how I go about doing that. Okay, so here's the part that's busted. So those two little blades would be sticking out front there. So I've got all these blades here. I've got two. These are kind of thin ones that are pretty flexible, and these are kind of thicker, and these are the contacts. These are not high voltage contacts, they're just 5-volt contacts. They make two types of contacts basically for pinball machines. Ones that are essentially just digital, just for a 5-volt signal, and then they make the other ones that have power for like controlling solenoids and stuff, mostly on EMs, but or flipper switches and stuff like that that are tungsten backed that can handle 40 volts and a whole bunch of current. You put these in a flipper and they're going to burn up really fast. Likewise, if you put those high current ones in place of these, sometimes they're not sensitive enough. They don't make quite good enough contact. So always good to get the right one. So potentially, I don't know if this whole switch assembly is available. It might be. It is a Gottlieb, so there's a chance that Steve at the PBR would have it. I don't know, but I don't have one here. And so the easiest thing for me to do is just keep some of these parts on hand, and then I can just rebuild it real fast. So I'm going to pull this wafer apart and kind of try to keep them in the right order. So that goes there. That's there. Now I've got to get down to this next layer. The hardest part is separating these. You need a sharper screwdriver. Yeah, I sharpened this one on the honing wheel because it's, you see the heat stress on it. I should say the hardest part. The hardest part is getting them back on, these little wafers back on the little plugs. That is for sure the hardest part, and trying to keep it from blowing apart like it's doing now. It's coming off the wrong side. It's trying to come off. It's pulling, going the wrong way. Really not wanting it to take the whole thing apart. But it's not wanting to cooperate. Well, I may have to go the other way. I'll just try to lay these out. It will come apart one way or the other, I suppose. Let's get a bigger screwdriver. Well, I finally got that off. Okay. All right. Okay, so for the inner one's the one that moves, so I'm going to put the thin one on the inside. Yeah, that's too far. A little bit. Yeah, messing with these wafers is always the hardest part. Okay. Got that in. And now put the big one. Before I put this next one in, I'm going to have to, before I get too far along, I'm going to have to solder these points in there. I don't know exactly where I need to solder them, so I'm going to take this over to the game and figure out where I want to put the points on there. So I'm just going to set this up on here. Get it set, there we go. And then I can hold this like that, because it's got to, you can see right there, that's where it engages with it. So you've got to leave it kind of long, but then, so if the contacts were probably in that first hole, the second hole is basically up behind that. I guess you could do it there. Maybe I'll do the second hole. Well, don't have a stand there. The problem is both of them broken off, so I don't have a model to follow exactly. I gotta just kind of figure it out. I think I'm gonna do the first hole. Well, between walking over here, I decided to do it in the second hole. So I'm gonna put it right there. So I'll get this contact out. Well, shoot, I need something to hold it up in there. And I'm just gonna solder it in from the back side. I guess I'll just hold it with my hand. Solder one-handed. Oof. Okay, so we got another wafer, then we're going to put this one on, one of the thick ones. So it will go like that. So we need it on the second one also. Ultimately, I'm going to have to trim these a little bit shorter, but I think I will save that. You know, I'm wondering if I was supposed to have two of those in the middle. It'll work either way. I'll have to bend these and adjust them once we get them in the machine. I don't want to cut it too early. I don't want to get it too short. Let me go ahead and put it back together and then cut it once it's in the machine. There's the two leads to solder them, so it's good to have them flipped the right way so they're opposite each other, so they're not one right on top of each other. That's it for this one. Okay, so I just got to put this switch stack back together. Unfortunately, this thing has bolts and nuts, which kind of makes it a little bit of a pain to put back together. Actually, I can't do that yet. I've got to put the plate on there. Look at my other one, see which way it goes. Goes like that. Go back and get my screwdriver. Try to hold this nut with my fingers. I'm just able to. Okay. So we got a fair amount to cut off. Yeah, I'm glad I put it on the second one there. So I'm going to cut it off about at the next hole, and then we'll see where that leads us. We can always cut them again. That's pretty good. I just need the top one needs to be just a smidge shorter. It's kind of just barely hitting the spring on the pop bumper. So I'm going to just cut it just a little bit more. Still just a little bit long. That should do it. All right, I think that's going to work. So just have to screw that back in there, and then it's basically adjusted pretty well. I could bend that back a little bit, open the gap up a little bit more so you don't get any phantom hits. That looks about right. All right, so I'm just gonna put those screws in there. We'll have to just center it for the spoon, because this also has this, holds the spoon switch. So this game hasn't scored a pop bumper score in a long time. Well, it hasn't played in a long time, but even before that, it hasn't played a pop bumper score. Hasn't earned a pop bumper score, I should say. So I'm trying to get these just kind of hand tight so that I can wiggle them with my hand, but then they'll stay. And I'm just going to try to eyeball it. That's not even close. So I'm moving it in 4 ways and making sure that it always goes, that it's basically in the middle and that it doesn't ever open any when you press on it, because if it's not in the center, that's what it will look like. It's opening. One last thing, I need to solder up the switch. So like most times I've only got 2 hands, so I'm just going to pre-tin up both sides of what I'm soldering, and then apply some heat and touch them, and it'll be good. So everything's good and soldered up. If I can do this quick enough not to burn my hand. Blowing really does help. I give them a good tug, make sure they're good. That one's finished. By the way, if you like the videos, click like and go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost nothing.